Welcome back to the show, Cherries fans, Chelsea fans, and of course, Premier League fans. We're finally there. Last game of the season, we are off to Stamford Bridge to take on a Chelsea side who have improved significantly lately. Now, of course, last time out, we were beaten by Brentford at Dean Court. Again, VAR was the subject, and no doubt we'll bring that back up with my special guest as well. But Chelsea could well get a Europa League spot. It's going to be very, very difficult considering Spurs have got Sheffield United. Um, but of course, everybody is also saying that we could do Eddie Howe a favour. Will we? That's the question. Now, I do have a special guest with me today, and from the leading Chelsea show, I have got Alex from Chelsea Fan TV. Welcome to the show, Alex. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thanks for having me on the channel. It's been a long season, but it's gone quickly. I don't know if you feel the same way as I do, Craig, but compared to last season, good energy going into this last game.
Yeah, and I was going to actually start off with that because earlier on in the season, and you know where I'm going with this, there was a lot of money spent in the transfer window by Todd Bowley, extended periods of times on contracts, lots of people saying that you don't really know what he's doing. I've had a little look at the transfer activity, and to be honest, although you have spent a lot, there's been a lot that's come in as well, hasn't there?
Well, this is something that Chelsea fans also collide with, and I'm very much on the fence with the owners. I'm not happy with them. I'm not unhappy with them. I'm really waiting for this summer to see, okay, is there really ambition, or did you just spend all of that money and give all those long contracts to young players so that you could then sell them on, make money, and just be sustainable in a business sense? So this summer we're going to find out if there is really ambition from the ownership. So, I mean, to give you a bit of context, it's not even player sales anymore. It's getting to the stage where we're selling hotels that Chelsea own to the Blue Co Group, which obviously owns Chelsea.
Yeah.
We're looking to sell Cobham, our training ground, to ourselves in order to generate more money to comply with FFP. I mean, I've never heard of it, to be honest with you. I've never heard of any owners doing this, but one thing you can't criticize about Clear Lake and Todd Bowley is they are very savvy businessmen. And
Yeah.
ultimately, there's two parts to running a club. There's on the pitch and there's off the pitch. And I think off the pitch, they're very hard to match. And there's very few ownership groups that I can look at the moment and say, you know what, actually, we've made a lot of smart decisions, but then we needed to match on the pitch. And the beginning of the season, as you alluded to earlier, it didn't look like it was going to come together. But trust in the process. It gets boring. Nobody likes to talk about it, but it is a real thing. And not a lot of Chelsea fans have wanted to stick with Pochettino. I'd probably say there was about a 60-40 split. Most fans wanted him out. There was a small percentage that were happy to give him a little bit more time, myself included in that. And here we are. And now if they end up sacking Pochettino, then we are going to know that we're working with a group of bums at Chelsea. But I don't think they're that silly. I think Pochettino's definitely earned the right to stay at Chelsea, even if we did lose the final game of the season, to be honest with you. It's just been horrible circumstances. We've managed to come through with a relatively positive end to the season.
Yep. And like you say there, apart from that thumping against Arsenal, you are unbeaten since I think it was the start of February that I was looking at, and some good results during that time as well. With regards to Pochettino, how has his style changed this season? And how do you feel that the players, seeing as you've got such a young group of players as well now, you have got one of the youngest squads in the league. And I think that's what Todd Bowley's aim has been and Pochettino's aim has been. How do you think he's adapted as the season's gone on?
Well, the fact that we had such a young squad, that was obviously the main reason behind bringing in Poch.
Yeah.
We know that he's a good manager in terms of developing players and bringing them through. He did that at Southampton. He did that at Tottenham. I don't necessarily think PSG is comparable at the moment to Chelsea because they're just at different stages. They're still winning titles in France.
Hmm.
We didn't even get European football in any sense this season. So you can't really compare that experience. But Pochettino always wanted more experience than he's had. And the little experience that he has had for the majority of the season has been injured.
Hmm.
Our captain Reece James has been out, Ben Chilwell's
Yep.
been out, um, Thiago Silva, he's going. So there's a lot of players at Chelsea that have actually been part of the foundations of what we were building under Abramovich, winning trophies, winning the Champions League, and now we're slowly being stripped away by this new ownership. But then the next question is, are we going to bring more experience in to combat the youth? And I think that is where I'm crossing my fingers. I'm looking up to the gods and I'm saying, guys, you need to spend some money on some ready-made players because ultimately, as much as I love the prospects and the youth and everything with that side, ready-made players are going to win you competition straight away. And you spend 80 million on Mudryk, you spend all this money on all these other players. You don't know when that potential is going to shine through. So it's all about balancing everything out. Right now, we are too young as a squad. That's obvious. I think that's part of the reason we've struggled. We also lack quality, and
Yeah.
that goes back to potential as well. How do you know when potential comes through? If you're signing players based on potential, they're obviously not good enough now because otherwise there wouldn't be potential. They'd be ready-made players. So people seem to say one thing and then when the team loses, they do another thing. Hang on a second. You said you were going to trust the process. We just lost 4-1 to United. We lost we lost all these games,
Yeah.
and now you don't trust the process. You gotta make a decision, guys. So that's the way Chelsea fans have been for the majority. I find it quite frustrating in that sense. But there are obviously more patient fans as well. Everyone's different; they're all entitled to their opinion.
It did look for quite some time, let's be honest, this season, that you were going to finish in the bottom half. But there is something riding on this game. And of course, you could get a Europa League place and take that, from, well, effectively, what Bournemouth could do on Sunday is give Eddie Howe the golden ticket, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more. There's more than just Newcastle and Chelsea involved. I mean, we haven't even
Hmm.
spoken about Tottenham, and then
Yeah,
you've got the FA Cup final with Man United as well. If we finish fifth, that's actually a bare minimum. If Man
yeah.
United go and win the FA Cup, because then we won't even have Europa League. We'll be in the conference.
Hmm.
So in that sense, there's a lot riding on this game. We're looking for Tottenham to drop points. They're playing
Yeah,
Sheffield though, so I can't really see them losing that game.
yeah,
Um, our home form has been fantastic, especially this calendar year. I
yeah,
don't see us dropping points against you, to be honest. I know things have picked up. I know you had a bit of a shaky start to the season, and you finally sort of come together. Your manager as well. He's been nominated for one of the managers of the year, which is fantastic. I'll be honest, I haven't watched a lot of Bournemouth this season, but when you go to a lot of the games, I don't know if you go to many games,
yeah.
Craig, but when you go to the games, you don't have time to watch half the other games on the telly. So
Hmm.
it's one of them where you check the scores and that's about it, really. Um, but every now and then I'll tune into Match of the Day and I'll see. But you guys are playing some good stuff.
Yes.
But for us, it's not even about playing well. We just want the result. And our history as a club kind of goes against the way we've been in recent times because before Tuchel, before Sarri, we didn't really play
Mm.
great football. We always looked to just win matches by any means necessary, whether that was sitting back, countering, whatever you had to do to go and win. Whereas now we almost go out of our way to play good football,
Yeah.
and that's not really something that's been embedded in the culture in recent times. But now we're used to it, but we still need to maintain what we had before, which is the results. I can't see us losing this game. I just can't see it. It's Thiago Silva's last game at Chelsea. He's going to get a fantastic
Mhm.
reception. I'd be very surprised if he didn't start. I'd almost be upset for him as well because I think he deserves it. Um, Jackson's almost. I think he's on 15 goals this season in the Premier League.
Mhm.
Completely underrated by a lot of teams. I'm not going to call him Firmino because he's not that type of
Yeah.
player, but he causes problems, mate. Even when he doesn't score goals, he causes problems. Sterling's been in good form off the bench as well. He'll probably end up starting because Mudryk is out. And then you've got Madueke as well, who's been better towards the latter end of the season. And I don't need to say much about Cole Palmer.
Mhm.
He's a massive threat for us. So we've got a lot of players coming back.
Mhm.
A lot of players that have just sort of eased their way back in as well. I mean, in Kunku, I don't know how players can come back after such long injury spells and just get straight back into things. But and Kunku seems to be good at it. Gusto's been great, and Reece James has been fantastic as well since they've come back. So maybe that's just quality. Maybe it's great management. I don't know, but it's coming into play. So, I mean, if you had anything riding on this game, which I know you don't,
Yeah.
I'd be quite scared of Chelsea right now because we're in a good moment. But it's not a big issue if you lose. But maybe you want to do Eddie Howe a favour. I don't know.
Well, there is the thought that we could potentially get into the top half and finish in the top half of the Premier League. Of course, that relies on Brighton being beaten as well. So there is that
Yeah.
possibility.
Who would Brighton
Um,
play?
I'm just trying to think actually who Brighton are playing.
Well, they're not in the
Just
best form either, so it's probably not
no,
a bad shout.
no. It's at the end of the day. You've recently beat them. Of course, the 2-1 win last night,
Yeah, Man
and
United at home. Man United at
yeah,
home. Man United.
yeah.
That's the
Well, you'd expect Brighton to win that, to be honest, in Man United's form,
one.
but but we are a bit of a bogey side to Chelsea, aren't we?
You are. You are. But I always think that when we've played Bournemouth in the past, especially at home when you've beaten us, and that's been a couple of times,
Yeah.
um, we've never been in a good moment in,
No.
in, in those particular scenarios. I remember when you beat us 3 or 4-0 when we had
4-0, yeah.
Sarri, you know, not to take anything away from your performances, because obviously they were great. And
Yeah.
ultimately, you can only praise a team that plays good football. But this is the first time in a long time that I remember playing Bournemouth, and we have been on the up. Even last season when we beat you away from home, that was our only win under Frank Lampard when he came in. So it's not like we were doing well. We were shocked that we were able to
Yeah.
beat. Whereas now it's like, guys, you've done all the hard work. You've beaten all these other teams. We didn't expect to beat Brighton. I didn't expect
Mhm.
to beat Brighton, and we've done it. So just get over the line. Doesn't matter how you do it. I'll take a 1-0. I'll take a VAR misslip where they have a dodgy line. I'll take wherever I can get. That's the way I'm looking at this game. The atmosphere is going to be fantastic. Ultimately, it's just about the result. If we sit back and you have the ball and you want to play tiki
Mhm.
taka, this and that, and somebody slips over and we can get through on goal with a 1-on-1, we're going to take what we can get. There are obviously fans that think you need to play all this fancy stuff, but we can worry about that once we've got European football. I'm still not certain we're going to get it anyway, even regardless of the celebrations at Brighton, simply because of Man United in the cup.
Yeah.
Tottenham pick up points against Sheffield. They win the cup. We've got no Europe, and we deserve it. Based on, I don't know if you watched the Aston Villa game when we scored that late winner,
Mhm.
and VAR cancelled us out. So I still feel like we deserve European football, irrespective of this result. But yeah, I mean, ultimately the referees and VAR. I mean, I think they're just killing it. I mean, what do you think
Big
about
subject.
VAR?
Well, I tell you what, I've moaned and moaned and moaned and moaned about VAR on this channel. And in fact, there's even another video that's gone out recently because, of course, Wolves have really kicked up about it. And of course, we need 14 clubs to actually sign for it to be passed and to
Mm,
scrap VAR. My argument is years ago, of course, when Chelsea were winning the league, under Jose Mourinho, we had no VAR. We had referees like Mark Housey, Mark Clattenburg, of course, recently left Forest,
Yeah.
all these referees who were well known for getting 99.9% of the decisions right. Now, what we've got is we've got referees that are either A, scared to make a decision, so they don't make it and wait for somebody to tell them in their ear what
Mm.
happens, or referees that do have the balls to actually make the decision, and then those ones get overturned. Um, so I can understand your frustration completely with regards to the disallowed goal.
Mate, I think one of the biggest problems is, like you said, that they're scared to make decisions, but I think they make too many decisions. And football was at its best when referees weren't part of the game. Just let the game flow.
Yeah.
All these silly fouls. We used to criticize La Liga only a few years ago because it
Hmm.
was like watching child's play. People fall over just because you put a finger on them.
Yeah.
It's like that in the Prem now. And I think VAR is killing football. I think it really is. I think as a match going fan, especially, it kills the games. I do the vlogs. It actually helps the vlogs in that sense. So
Yeah.
can't complain there. But everyone else that's in the stadium, sitting there, you want to get the adrenaline going. You want to get behind your team, create a bit of atmosphere. It kills everything. It kills the momentum. It kills any sort of atmosphere that's in the stadium, and nobody knows what's going on. To be honest with you, I mean, if you watch NFL and stuff like that, which I
Yeah.
don't, but they communicate with the fans in the stadium. I
Hmm.
even saw in the MLS they did an announcement on a VAR check where the referee had a microphone. The whole stadium could hear what he was saying. And I think even those things make a big difference because at least we understand what's going on. But the way modern football's going, I don't think we're going to see any changes in terms of general officiating. I think referees are still going to give soft fouls. And I think that ultimately the Premier League we knew from 5 years ago, and that's not even long,
Mm.
is gone. We're never going to see that again. But if we can scrap VAR, we're not the first league to do it. I mean, Sweden, they've seen what's
Hmm.
happened with all these other clubs. They didn't even want to get it in the first place, and
Yeah.
fair play to them. You want to enjoy your football. Ultimately, you can judge referees without having a video assistant. You can watch everything back regardless. And if a referee's had a poor season, but they did it with
Yeah.
Anthony Taylor, they put him down to the championship. Now they only did it for one game. They should have done it for much longer. But you can do that. And ultimately, referees have got to be held accountable for their own decisions. Because if you've got one referee saying one thing, VAR saying another thing, we don't know who's responsible. We really don't know. One, they're saying something in someone else's ear when it might not be a decision. Now it is a decision. It's just confusion. And yeah, I despise it. I think it's killing the game. I can understand maybe in other leagues that are a bit slower, it doesn't kill the momentum as much. Like Italy, for example, they play quite slow football.
Yeah.
The Premier League is known for being fast. Don't kill that speed. And yeah, that's where I stand on it.
No, completely agree with you. I'm completely with you on that. And the way we play, is fast attacking football, the high press, which, no doubt we'll do again on Sunday. And, when you score a goal, there's now that delay and thinking, is it not? Oh, hold on, checking goal,
It's
and it
rubbish,
just
isn't it?
ruins it, just ruins it, and then you have a situation because the Premier League have said 96% of VAR decisions are correct. Now I don't know where they get this figure from,
Rubbish.
because if you watched our game against Arsenal, um, I, I haven't any clue why that goal was ruled off. Now, don't get me wrong, Arsenal were the better side, deserved to win it, but at the same time, that goal could have got us back in the game.
No, you're very true. You're right. I mean, you're lucky though. You've got good players who can score you goals like Solanke. So if you miss one, he can score another.
Yeah,
And we're lucky in that sense with Palmer as well. But every team has their own challenges, and it doesn't matter if you're trying to score goals or keep goals out. Something goes against you, and you just ask the question. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And I never used to have that feeling. Right. Obviously, there's been games in history that I can allude to, and you can with Bournemouth, and
yeah,
you can say the referee was an absolute disgrace. We needed VAR in that game, it looked like he was being paid to play against us. But most of the time that doesn't happen, and you can't change the rule because of an exception. You've got to change it because there's consistent errors, and we are seeing that. The statistic you just read out earlier, it's a fake statistic. It's not real because we're watching this in real time, and I'm not understanding it. You're not. The pundits on Sky aren't. When you watch Match of the Day, they're not enjoying it. You've got a lot of senior figures as well saying the same things that we are. So
Yeah.
we're not talking about rocket science here. This is relatively simple stuff. You know, you can't. There is no getting the ball first anymore, because if you get the ball and then touch someone's ankle, apparently that's a yellow or a red card these days. Whereas previously you just get the ball. So it's not black and white. It's like a rainbow. It's all over the place. I can't keep up to date with the rules. I don't understand it. They change it every year. For me, I think it's just a lost cause. You've got to go back to the basics and then just go from there. But yeah, we did try it. We can't complain for that. We've tried VAR. It's not worked. What more to say?
Exactly. Well, talking about scoring goals, and I know you've mentioned there Cole Palmer, who's been fantastic, but let's talk about a player who has been divided a lot of opinions. And of course, last season, he was meant to be on his way to Bournemouth, and he failed his medical. And that player is Nicolas Jackson. What's your honest opinion about him, Alex?
Before I answer, I just want to know what your thoughts are on him. I mean, Percy, do you think he's good enough for Chelsea?
He's not good enough for Chelsea. No.
No. Okay.
Is he good enough for Bournemouth? I think he would frustrate us. I think, he would be a good backup plan to Solanke, because at the moment, we've got Enesu now. If both of those are out, touch wood, that won't happen. But if both of those are out, we've got no real options, rather than playing Semenyo up front, where he's probably better on the wing. The thing is I just don't. I think that we've dodged a bit of a bullet, the amount of money that we would have spent on him, because we can't spend as much. We've spent more than we ever have during the
Mm.
windows recently, but I think we've dodged a bit of a bullet. I don't think he's good enough for Chelsea, though, most definitely.
I have to disagree with you on that. Because for me, it goes back to what we were talking about before. And then maybe I partially agree with you then. Right now, in the grand scheme of things, where Chelsea are meant to be, he's obviously not good enough. That's clear. But actually, if you look at Drogba's first season,
Yeah.
Crespo, Mutu, all Morata, big signings that we've made, Higuain,
Hmm.
ready-made players. I think we could all agree on that. They've been
Yeah.
there. They've played in the Champions League at the top level. Some of them won league titles before they came to Chelsea. This is Nicolas Jackson's second season in professional football,
Yeah.
and he outscored all of these other players in his first season for Chelsea. The only player in modern times that has scored more goals in his debut season for Chelsea is Diego Costa. And we all love Diego Costa. I mean, maybe you don't, but we did.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that says a lot about what Jackson's done. I think
Mm,
not only has he shown a great effort this season. I mean, he's a hard worker, and people go, "Oh, you're supposed to work hard." Look at Man United. Look at some of the players that have been there over the years. Look at some of these
mhm.
other teams. Tottenham. They
Yeah.
don't really necessarily care. They run, but do they run? And that is where
Mm,
I think Pochettino's made a massive difference in the squad. And I think Nicolas Jackson's been one of the catalysts in that sense. He's been given a lot of game time. Fair enough. You've got to be given the chance. But I can't remember the last time another player got 15 goals in a league season. I think that would have been Hazard. I'm not certainly not comparing Jackson to Hazard, but there's something to work with there. If that is what potential gets you, that's bloody good potential. That's almost in itself good enough for any Premier League team. You've got a player that gives you 15 goals, 5 assists. You're not going to say no to it, are you? Even if you're Man City, you'd still take
yeah.
that. So Yes, he's certainly not good enough for where Chelsea need to be. Obviously, challenging at the top of the table. You really want 20 goals, don't you?
Yeah,
But for where we are, the amount of goals we couldn't score last season, we were one of the worst teams in terms of scoring. This year, it's all about keeping the ball out of the back of the net. But we're very much capable of scoring goals, and I think that he makes life easier for his teammates as well. We can't remember, obviously, when I was watching pre-season, we didn't
yeah,
have the injuries that we had now. We didn't even have all the players. We didn't have
mm,
Palmer or Caicedo at this point.
yeah,
So it's hard to comment on some of them, and Madueke as well. I can't remember him in pre-season. Um, but we had Chukwuemeka, we had Nkunku, Jackson, Mudryk. These guys linked up fantastic. It was fantastic link up in pre-season, and then straight away Nkunku gets injured. One of the first games of the season, Chukwuemeka's injured. I think Jackson's isolated at times. I think if you can isolate him, he struggles. But when he's got good players around him, his movement's there. He makes good runs. And that's half the battle, isn't it? When you've got a striker, they know how to
yeah,
put the ball in the back of the net, but do they get themselves in the right position to do it? So then you talk about you see all the complications of Jackson missing all these easy chances. I know he missed a really good one against Bournemouth
yes, yeah,
away, but he scored. It doesn't matter. Haaland misses chances, but ultimately he scores more than he misses. And I think if Jackson can get to that stage, we're looking at a top player, and 30 million in the modern day. What is that? I mean, 10 years ago that would have been 10 million. So in terms of the money we've spent to get this guy, and you could say that about one or two others, I think it's money well spent.
let's talk about somebody you did mention there, Moisés Caicedo. 100 million, I think it was it? Am I right in thinking that?
105.
105 million from
Yeah.
Brighton. Um, I think I know what you're going to say, but is there glimmers that he's going to be worth that? Or do you think he's never going to be? Because when you sign a player like that, you expect somebody like a Declan Rice, like a Harry Kane, somebody who is absolutely outstanding. Moises Caicedo did a very, very good job at Brighton, but could he ever be that for Chelsea?
Do you not think he's done a good job?
I think he's done all right. I
I
think he's
think he's
done
been
all right.
great. I think he's been great. Honestly, I do. I think he's been great. And also, a part of the problem with Caicedo, and we can put this back on the manager, is that Poch isolated him towards the beginning of the season. He
Yeah,
pushed Enzo forward, which I didn't understand. Um, and then Caicedo was left on his own. So now that Poch has made things easier around him, we've got Gallagher next to him, more defensive help. Cucurella is an inverted midfielder. It's a lot easier for Caicedo, and you can see him start to shine. One thing as well that I know that you look at the price tag. If you actually look at his stats, they are better than Declan
mm,
Rice. They are better
yeah,
than these other players everyone wants to rave about. Yes, he has made a couple of mistakes. Thiago Silva made a mistake when he first came to Chelsea. I'll never forget. He gave the ball away against West Brom. I think we ended up drawing that game 3-3. People said he was washed. Turns out he's one of the greatest free signings in club history, if I'm being totally honest with you. I mean, for such a great player to come out and play that long at the top of the game, there's
yeah.
not many other things to say. So yeah, was it a bit shaky at first? Absolutely, but he's had a fantastic end to the season. This is not something that's been happening over 10 games. This is something that's been happening over 25, 30 games. So among Chelsea fans, there's no complaint to Caicedo. The question is who you put with him, because then you've got Lavia who's been out, Chukwu has been out. Are you going to push Gallagher forward when Enzo comes? So they're good problems to have, but there's still question marks in terms of. I don't think we've even seen Chelsea's strongest squad under Poch. I know we haven't. So there's just so many question marks in terms of who is good enough to fit into the squad. If you're asking me if is Caicedo's good enough, absolutely. He's a starter every day of the week.
It sounds from what you're saying that probably on a different level, but what Poch has done now is very much similar to what Iriola did. A very, very slow start, getting to know the players, didn't
Mm.
really know the strengths, but has come good. And it
Yeah.
looks like you have come good. Do you think that you can be a force next season if you can keep the squad together.
So who again? Sorry.
So with regards to Iriola, of course, we had a very,
Oh,
very slow
Iriola.
start. Yeah, had a very, very slow start at the start of the season. Likewise, Poch did at Chelsea,
Yes.
but he seems to have got everything together and
Yeah.
seems to know this squad. And can you be a force next season, do you reckon, Alex?
I think Iriola's already stamped his mark at Bournemouth. I think the
Yeah,
way you're playing and where you are in the table shows that. So I don't think that that's necessarily something to think about next season. I think you're already there. Then it comes down to the ownership. Are they going to invest? I think
yeah,
so. And I see your owner. I don't know if it was Sky or something. He was showing them around the stadium, very open, happy to do interviews.
mm,
I like your owner. I can't remember his name. I know he's American. Um,
Bill Foley.
yeah, just because they're
Yeah,
Americans, doesn't mean they're bad,
no,
And I'm not saying that Bowley's perfect. I'm certainly not saying Clear
mm,
Lake are perfect. I think they're probably the worst of the lot. But you've got to see what kind of backing is there. The manager's clearly good enough on both sides. I'd say that with Iriola and Poch.
yeah,
Uh, but you've got to work with the weapons that you have, and I think that in modern football, it's so difficult to get that player that you want that's going to make everything better. But once you get that player, everyone goes, wow, the manager's amazing. It's like, well, no, actually, you just have a great player that fits everything together. And for you, I'm not sure what that is at Bournemouth. At Chelsea, it looks like it would be a striker. Um,
yeah.
and those are the small things that make a big difference.
I personally think next season you could challenge again, considering.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I think considering how it's been towards the end of this season, it seems like he's got all the boxes in order. He knows what his strongest team is now. A couple of additions, I think you'll be good. How concerned are you with regards to PSR?
How concerned am I? No, I'm not concerned because, as I said, I think the owners are quite savvy in that sense. If we get European football, then we don't need to be concerned. And I think next
Exactly.
year we'll have Champions
Yeah.
League. I'm quite confident about that, especially if we have a fit squad. But if we can't sell players, we end up selling assets. So they are doing everything they can to comply. How can you criticize that? For me, it's just smart business, and I think any club that would know how to do it would do it as well.
Definitely, definitely. Well, before we do the predictions, do tell everybody where they can find you.
Chelsea Fan TV. If you go on Instagram, it's Chelsea Fan TV YT. The same on Twitter. And yeah, we do interviews after every game, typically with angry fans, but recently not so much.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. So I'm guessing which way you're probably going to go, but go on. What do you predict?
6-0 Chelsea.
Six.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Um, I am gonna go. What's your goal scoring record been like recently? Have you scored lots? I haven't seen.
It's not been too bad.
Not
Not
been
been
bad.
too bad. Yeah, it's not been
Okay.
too bad. It's been quite consistent. Apart from the early stages this season, it's been quite consistent. I would say since about November time.
All right. All right. In that case, I'm gonna. Mm, no, I'm going 2-0 Chelsea. Clean sheet. We've got Gusto back. Cucurella is in the squad. Chalobah's been playing fantastic football in Silver's last game. We need a clean sheet. Gallagher and Caicedo in front, very solid. Enough freedom for the players at the front to score goals. Who's going to score? Cole Palmer. He's going to get one. And Raheem Sterling. I'm going to say Sterling's going to get a goal as well because he's starting
Sterling.
instead of Mudryk for this one, I reckon. So that's my prediction. What about you?
I'm going to go for a 2-1 defeat for us. Um, I think you have got momentum. You have got momentum. There's a lot more riding on this game for yourselves than there
Hmm.
is for us. Yeah, it would be nice to finish in the top half, but I don't think we'll do Eddie Howe a favour Like a
Fair enough.
lot of
At
Bournemouth
least you're
fans
on
are
it.
hoping we do, but I can't see it. I can't see it, and I think it's going to be a 2-1 defeat, and yeah, honestly, that's how I see it.
Fair play, mate. Fair enough. Well, thanks for having me on, mate.
Yeah, not a problem at all, Alex. Thank you so much for joining me, and yeah, no doubt we'll catch up next season.
Pleasure.
And thank you everybody for joining us. Remember, hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Please do also check out all of our other shows that we've done here at Up the Cherries in all departments. We had Richard Archer on from Hardfi, Adam Devlin from the Blue Tones. We've had Damon Mincello, Ocean Colour Scene, Nico in the BBC presenter, Peter Hooton from The Farm. We've had loads and loads of special guests, so please do go check them out. But until the next one, up the cherries. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us.